Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm recording from my closet today in my office because I'm still not ready in my podcasting studio. So I've got Thom King on the show from Portland, my old neighbor. I was in Bellevue, Washington until 2 months ago. And we're going to talk all things keto and your story. And I wanted to kind of talk also about your book, Guy Gone Keto. And what I always love to, just kick off the show is, what's your why? What's your story? Who are you?
Yeah, that's something I ask myself on a daily basis. So
good therapy session.
it is. It's interesting because, I'm getting up there in years, and, occasionally I run into, some younger people, and I'll be hanging out with them, and they're like, oh yeah, what age do you finally get your crap together? And it's like, I'm 60. I don't have my crap together. It's every single day. Yeah, it's just a journey. And it's so every single day you try to, you try to get a little bit better, but I've never met anybody who I would give legitimate credit to that has said that they have found it and that they're settled, because I'm always suspicious of that. So, who am I today? So, I am the head food scientist and CEO of a food ingredient company called Icon Foods. And so we create sweetening systems. I do a ton of formulations for companies that are looking to break into the keto category, low carb, sugar-free, and just basic clean label sugar reduction. So I've been doing that for about 20 years and have worked with, I'm quite certain, a lot of products that you've had before. And I would say that's my day job. My side hustle is the Guy Gone Keto. And the why behind that was I just think that I got tired of sort of being an imposter in the health industry, because about 5 years ago, when I started the book, I was in Las Vegas, and one of my suppliers took me out to dinner. And of course, I had the largest ribeye that they had, took up the whole plate, along with the mashed potatoes, and then glasses of wine and cake afterwards. And so I got back up to my room, and that's when I sort of had that epiphany. So I was staying at this room in the Luxor that probably needed to be remodeled 20 years ago. And I can only describe the room by saying that it smelled like broken dreams and regret. So it was like, and so I went down that rabbit hole, and it's like, I looked in the mirror and it's like, what's going on? I was carrying about 35, 40 pounds of extra weight. My blood pressure was like 199/90. And, I had the worst heartburn, I had stress, my sleep was terrible, I had signs of inflammation. And I think at that point, the pain of my habits exceeded the pleasure that I was getting from them. So I've always been a big journaler, and I just started journaling my journey, if you will. Yeah. And I just started writing it down. It's like, how and what will I do to make it a lifestyle shift, because I didn't want to just go on a diet, because I'd done that before. Like, I'd done Atkins. I mean, I've done every diet you can imagine, because, being a food scientist, you try to educate yourself on that. And so I worked with, Atkins was probably the closest thing that I'd done to keto at that point. And that's when I just started making this deep dive into keto. And it started out as, hey, I want to lose 35 pounds and get healthy. But it turned out to be way more than I expected. And that's my who and why, and for today.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I relate to that, writing down, journaling. I did that when I got my, chronic fatigue exhaustion issues in 2013. It started, and I didn't know what to do. I was so frustrated, so lost, and I needed a place to put those emotions out. And I started just sharing everything in a blog on a website. And that's what came about to make my book, Life is Not a Race. I'm like, you know what? People need to hear this information.
Yeah.
And they can relate, like as your story, people can relate to that experience and that emotional feeling when you're in Vegas in a hotel room going, okay, what am I doing with myself? Where am I going with my life? And what can I do now? You know, and finally get to that point that I am ready mentally, physically, spiritually for a physical transformation.
Yep.
And as you've wrote in your book, it's similar to my holistic method. That's kind of what I got into this, is not just exercising to lose weight. Is so much more complicated than that. It's, you know, you can't just exercise and not change the way you eat, but you can't just change the way you eat and not work on the other factors. So, you know, it's that holistic approach that we need to look at. So I love it.
Yeah. The mind, body, and spirit. Definitely.
Yeah. So kind of what's some big things that you learned from sharing that journal, putting it into a book, calling it the Guy Gone Keto? And, you know, what have you felt since you published this 2 years ago, or how long ago was it? 3 years ago?
I'll do 3 years. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Like, what's come up for me and what have I felt?
The impact you've gotten from people reading that, because it seems like it was more of a sharing your experience to help inspire others to change. And to inspire that change in others, they have to feel that within themselves to like, I'm ready. I'm right. You know, what can I do? And you have it's very simple, easy to read, great action steps, how to get started. And that's why I think there's books like that it's not complicated. It's like, this is what I did. So what have you learned from hearing people's feedback? What have you gained from that experience?
That I like to get hugs from random strangers. Because
pre-COVID or after? Just COVID.
Well, this is pre-COVID. Now it's like, I guess a forearm bump, but it's interesting because I would go to trade shows and stuff like that, and I'd run into people that read my book, which I was actually kind of surprised about, because I haven't. So when it came out, it was on Amazon, and it was #1 for like a week, and I'm just like, oh, I'm #1, and then I never tracked like what the sales were and stuff, and quite honestly, it's like all of the royalties that are coming from the book are just going into an account, and I have never looked at it. So I have no idea how much money I've made off the book or anything else. It's just in this account. And I think at some point in time, I'm going to get into that account and I'm going to donate it to probably, I don't know, like the Charlie Foundation or something like that. Just because, you know, I didn't write the book to try to make money. I actually wrote the book for my own peace of mind. But the reward, I think from writing the book, the biggest reward I've gotten is when I run into people, you know, like I said, at these trade shows, and they're like, oh my God, I lost 60 pounds and I feel amazing. And, you know, I hear that so many times. And then I've had people, you know, that even people that were suffering from epileptic seizures come to me and be like, you know, this is the first step I got into keto, and I was suffering from epilepsy, and I had, you know, 20 seizures a week, and now I haven't had a seizure in 6 months, and they just break down crying. And then, of course, I mean, I'm crying, and then everybody's crying. So I would say that the greatest reward is seeing others, you know, improve the quality of their life by words that I wrote down. It's never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, no, I get it. I have my book published, self-published on Amazon, and I never look at it. I'm like, you know, I don't care if people rate it or, you know, buy how many people bought it. It's just, I feel good that I wrote and shared my personal experience and struggles, and just was totally reveal your whole self and put yourself out there, be vulnerable to help people in the long run. It's like, if I can help 5 people, you know, it was worth writing a book for over a year and everything you put into it. So I get it. It's a great, just self-healing kind of thing, as well as giving to the community.
It is. It creates freedom. I mean, you feel free after that. It's like, now I don't have anything to hide. So.
I know, that's what I say. If you want to know my whole life story,
pretty
read
much.
my book. It starts in high school and goes on.
Nice.
So the definition of insanity I wrote in my questions I wanted to ask you. I think of this every day with the whole COVID, right? It's like, you know, I'm in San Diego now, and they're going to close back down gyms probably. It's like, okay, not to go into COVID at all, because people are probably sick of it, but it's, You know, why when we try to lose weight, keep doing the same thing over and over again? And I think that's, you know, to me, that definition of insanity I always love is, you know, are you going to get the same results if you keep doing the same thing? No.
Yeah.
So is that kind of what led you to a little bit like going to keto and learning about keto and the lifestyle habits that go into it to really get the results that you desired?
Yes, in part, but I would say that the whole insanity cycle continues to be something that, you know, that I look at, you know, like every single day that I journey, I look at the things that I'm not continually improving in, and on, you know, and while I practice keto, I'll have off days, right? I feel like my girlfriend does not practice keto. And when you're with somebody who doesn't practice keto and you're not forcing keto down their throat, and you got to dinner and you're sitting across the table from a big huge plate of French fries, which are my personal kryptonite, you end up having one. And so it's sort of an interesting conundrum, right? Because you can keep visiting back to, you know, what was that French fry really worth it? Was that handful of French fries really worth it? You know, and if you just I think it's a process of taking a look at your actions, you know, and what you're doing and what the return is. And if you're not getting the desirable return or the outcome that you want, then you need to shift up your action plan. And so those are things I look at all the time. Like if I had anything tattooed across my forehead, it would be refrain and restrain. You know, because it's like refrain from doing things that you know that are going to make you feel crappy the next day, or the things that are going to make you go into some self-loathing, you know, like, oh my God, I'm better than that. What am I doing? You know, and in restraining, you know, not reaching across the table for that French fry, and finding the pain in that, and also, you know, rewarding yourself and showing yourself grace when, you know, you eat well, when you're hydrating enough, when you hit the gym, and giving yourself acknowledgement for that, because, you know, that takes deep discipline, and deep discipline is something that's created in a person. We're not born with it. You know, and I think that deep discipline is what separates, you know, people that are successful in a lifestyle change or successful in anything in their lives, and the people that are less than successful. So it's discipline equals freedom, as Jocko Willink says.
Very good. So we talk a lot about the difference of fat burning, sugar burning when you're keto adapted, fat adapted, flipping that switch from a sugar to fat burner. What have you found is a great way for people to flip that switch from sugar burner to a fat burning?
That's a really good question, because, you know, there's shortcuts.
Yeah.
You know, like beta hydroxybutyrate, and, you know, and ketone esters and stuff like that. Those are shortcuts.
But that's not helping you burn fat, though, right? I mean, I was thinking that, it's a shortcut to give ketones to your brain, give you brain fuel, but it's not because you broke down fat to burn fat.
100%. But I think that's kind of where I was going, is that, you know, there's a lot of people that's like, oh, I can get back into keto. I'll just drink, you know, I'll drink some BHB and be, you know, be off to the races. But you know, I've talked to people about that before. You know, they're like full on keto heads. Like, what do you think about BHB? And, you know, it's some of them, it alternates, because some people think that it creates a lazy liver, you know, because your liver is from my perspective, your most versatile and important organ than your body, because that is that is what's going to put you into keto, you know, because you're going to be starved for glucose, meaning that your body's burned through all of the glucose, or at least left behind. Because you also asked another interesting question, like, how much glucose does one person need? And you put a teaspoon, and I was moved by that, because I'm like, yeah, that is 100% accurate, because basically your body functions continually on 4 grams of glucose, which is 1 teaspoon. So that was really, thank you for that. So that's really all, you know, all the glucose you really need in your body at one time. And I think that any more than that, then your body is simply going to be storing that as lipids, or you're going to be burning it, but you're going to be burning it a lot faster. But what I can tell you is the switch that you refer to, like when you flip the switch, was like the first time that I really got into like deep keto. And it was after like a 6-day fast. And I was deep in it, and and the switch turned on. It felt like I had an unlimited pool of energy and an unlimited pool of clarity. And at that point, it's like, wow, you know what? When you deplete your body of glucose, and it means that also, you know, depleting your muscles too, because you're storing a lot of glycogens, which is glucose, in your muscles, and then your liver goes through the glucogenesis to convert that back to glucose so it's usable. So you have to really get yourself you know, emptied out of glucose by depriving yourself of carbs, increasing the amounts of fats that you're taking in. You know, like your liver isn't going to be efficient in metabolizing fats unless there's no sugar left. So it's like getting that light switch on is probably going to be your first step, and maybe your hardest step, because you're going to feel like you're depriving yourself because you're used to a particular type of diet. But that's my philosophy.
Yeah, no, I would always do a program. It's kind of evolved over 10 years of a sugar detox to, you know, it's really becoming keto fat adapted, but I don't like labeling it. It's just 3 phases. Here's what we do. And, you know, help you become a fat burner. And now it became the word keto adapted, fat adapted, whatever you want to call it, is just to teach people to eat the right types of foods to feed their body, to give energy, and you should feel good. And my thing is, I dieted so much in high school and college that I'm always, you know, I have to do it how I process eating this way. It's not, it's a lifestyle, sustainability. It's not a diet. And when people are so strict, I think for 30 days, but let's phase 3, I call it transition period. Let's do more of a sustainable program. So how do you do, you know, cyclical keto, or are you kind of strict keto, but you said, you know, you have a girlfriend that's not keto. How do you deal with it yourself? Because I know fasting, you can jump back into being in ketosis for a lot of people.
Right. It definitely does. And I mean, I think I'm one of those rare individuals that enjoys fasting.
Yeah, you do long fasts, don't you?
I do. I mean, I do long, I do short, I do intermittent. I enjoy being a little hungry. It allows me to reflect much better and keeps my head clear. And plus hunger is the best condiment. So, yeah. So as far as like dirty keto.
You write that down. Hunger is the best condiment. Quote Thom King.
Okay. So I actually didn't come up with that. My sister did, because when I wrote the book, at the same time I was making condiments, because I couldn't have ketchup or teriyaki sauce or I couldn't have any condiments because they're all loaded with sugar. It's like your basic ketchup has more sugar than ice cream. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'd like to have something on, you know, this steak or this hamburger or whatever. And so that's when I started making these condiments in the lab. And then, you know, people are like, you should sell these. I'm like, brilliant. So we started selling them, and they've done very, very well. But I just went down a rabbit hole. So
sorry, I do that.
You were asking, no, it's beautiful. But you're asking me like, so like, do I do cyclical?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Or, and probably this is going to
5-2 program, or what's kind of what works for you? N equals 1.
So that's a good question. So I went like keto for almost 3 years straight without really cheating. I would say very much at all. And so what happened is I hit this weird plateau where I think like one weekend I had like a sweet potato or something like that. And I put on so much water weight, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? So, you know, Mark Sisson, right?
Yeah.
So I asked Mark Sisson, you know, I emailed him. I'm like, hey, I think there's something wrong with me, because if I look at carbs, I start gaining weight. And he was pretty funny about it. He's like, yeah, well, you don't have any metabolic flexibility anymore. And he's like, go do some wind sprints. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work.
With no shirt on too.
Yeah, definitely. And and so from that point, it's like I went from like really strict keto to probably doing 4 to 5 weeks of keto and then a week of adding in carbs. But the carbs that I'm adding in, you know, are like sweet potatoes. I take away from, I don't have any corn, but I'll increase the level of carbohydrates that I'm having, mostly vegetables, and maybe increase my protein a little bit and cut back on my fat, and then I'll bounce back into it. And it took me probably a good 8 months before I started getting metabolic flexibility back. So
Wow.
from my perspective, I mean, I know people that are carnivore and they swear by carnivore. I've tried carnivore. It's not my thing. I think it's an individual thing. Whatever is going to make you, you know, however your body's going to function the best. But I think also taking things to an extreme is sometimes unhealthy. And I really felt like not taking a break off keto for at least a week, you know, every month or two was more detrimental than it was helping me because of metabolic flexibility.
Yeah. No, I feel that for myself, and for, you know, being an athlete, talking to athletes, it's important that we know when you're exercising more, you can tolerate a little more carbohydrates. And a lot of the studies and information you read out there are with people that have other chronic illnesses or whatnot. So you don't really get the information to be keto for athletes with that. You don't have to do 20 grams of carbs a day. We can add in a little more. And like Ben Greenfield found, I mean, he's extreme athlete sometimes, depending on what sport he's training for, that you could do 100 to 150 grams of carbs a day. So I think depends for an athlete, kind of look at periodization of your training. It's matching your nutrition with your training.
Yep.
And to stay burning fat. But I love, you know, the metabolic flexibility. I started in 2005 doing treadmill tests and resting tests before we knew anything about keto, and doing metabolic efficiency testing at rest. And I wish we still could do that testing now to really put in eating that low carb meal, because we were just doing it by exercise and how you do it. So it'd be so fascinating to me now. It's like, all right, you know, here's your exercise, here's your heart rate training range to burn fat, but let's look at how much you're eating carb wise and how high you can go carbs and still be burning fat on a treadmill. And so I go down a rabbit hole but I think it's just that N equals 1 experiment, you know, depending on activity level. But I say every day in my story is about chronic stress. And you're running your own business, you know, you're doing all this. You said, you know, you get all into all these different gadgets and it gets to be obsession. And what I wrote in my book and kind of my purpose, I feel like, is help people. Every stress response is a blood sugar response.
Yep. 100%.
And so, you know, I'm doing my NutriSense continuous glucose monitor. And I was telling people that in my groups, like, all right, my blood sugar's up. I'm not eating anything. What's going on? Or, you know, if there's nighttime, GI pathogens, bacteria dysbiosis, fungal infections, candida, all this different stuff can impact your ability to burn fat. It's fascinating. But with you, have you found, you know, differences in your stress levels impacting your ketones, your Oura ring, and tracking mechanisms?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like heart rate variability, resting heart rate, 100%. And then, I mean, if you have elevated cortisol levels, you know, it basically shuts your metabolism down, because you go into the fight, flight, or flee limbic part of your brain. That's like, I'm going to be attacked. Better hold on to all this food. So I mean, stress really makes a huge difference. And I would say like this Oura ring, I think, because I've talked to several doctors and PhDs about it, it's right about 60% of the time. Like, it's not super accurate, but for my use, and I beat the crap out of this thing and run it over in my car once. It holds together, and it does give me sort of a baseline. Like, I'm looking for like how much sleep I'm getting. I'm looking for like what my heart rate variability is. I'm also looking at resting heart rate. And so the time, and I track it, of course. And then what's interesting is stress, food, and the biggest one, alcohol. Like, if I have one drink, my resting heart rate will go from 67 to like 73 or 74. and my heart rate variability starts to flatten out. And I'm fascinated by that. And
Yeah.
I've eaten a meal that was, relatively carby. Same thing. Heart rate variability is flat, and, and my resting heart rate's just like through the roof. And same with stressful situations, like if I've had a really crappy day and I haven't used techniques that I know that work, but it's more comfortable for me to look at my phone or turn on the TV, same thing, like it winding down through sort of mindless entertainment. Those things then all end up with the same results of having, elevated resting heart rate and low variability in my heart rate variability. So, and I know the things that I can do to make it right. And I think that goes back to our whole thing about insanity,
Yeah,
because if I laid in bed, did some deep breathing exercises, meditated and read a book, I would curb that. And sometimes I do that. But more often than not, it's easy to slip into comfortable old habits of like, yeah, let me look at this iPad and see what's going on. And it's like, who tweeted what this time? And it's like, what's going on with our government? And now we've got fires and
well, you're in Portland. It's chaos over there, even more than Seattle.
It's insane. It's insane, the stuff that I've seen. And yeah, you try to just take it with a grain of salt, deep breaths, like, to each their own, but it compounds. And then we had fire, and I used to live in California and outside of Malibu, so I've seen fires. I didn't see smoke like this. It's like we had the worst air quality in the world for a period of time. And what's interesting is I followed my sleep cycle. I followed, all of the indicators of like what my metabolism was doing. And I had a hard time, getting very deep into keto. Blood sugar levels were pretty elevated. And then last Thursday, the sun came out. It rained and the sun came out, and it made a gigantic difference. So yeah, those external stimuli can really absolutely affect blood sugar levels and make it harder for you to get into keto.
Yeah, I always like to bring that up, but that's what I was talking at the conference we did not have at KetoCon. And
I missed that.
Jimmy Moore's Low Carb Cruise. What I've talked last year. I went on the cruise and is doing it this year, and maybe go next year on chronic stress.
Yeah.
And because I don't think a lot of people look at that. It's like, oh, I keep trying to eat this, I'm eating that. And like, okay, what about your other lifestyle habits? And as an FDN practitioner, they call it the Dress for Health Success Protocol, that we work on diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation as needed. Right. And I call it the holistic method, working on all these lifestyle methods. And I think people forget that part. They're just so focused on what to eat and how many carbs they limit, how many, and then they kind of gets to the next question ironically, on dirty keto versus clean keto. They end up eating all this crappy foods because they don't have carbs, and they're filled with all these fillers. That's kind of why you sound like you made your products nice and clean and good sugars.
They're
we can talk about.
Very simple.
Yeah, but don't you think, go back to your liver. My thing is liver detoxification, phase 1 and phase 2, and you have to have phase 3 with all the smoke, with all the stress. Eating crappy food, you're putting all these pesticides, chemicals in your body. Even if it's keto, is that good for you?
My perspective, no. Like, I'm not a big I'm not a big proponent of dirty keto, and I know a lot of people will talk about it, and it's like, oh yeah, it's fine, dirty keto, that's what I follow. Well, it doesn't work for me. Like, I honestly think that, what you need to put into your body are things that are fresh, that are from the earth, because I think it connects you to it. And I mean, and this might go down sort of a weird spiritual path. I mean, I'm a scientist, but I do understand, like, everything around us is fluid, like everything's constantly in motion, right? And so if you were able to peel away the veneer of the wooden table and everything else, and just be able to see it, as moving atoms, right? Then you would be able to see that all things are connected. Like, we're connected to the earth, we're connected to the table, we're connected to this, we're connected to each other. Like, we're connected to all things. And once you start seeing that, it's like, well, so how are you connected to, you know, something that's, yeah, low carb, sugar free, but it's in a box? Like, you know, eat vegetables, you know, eat sensibly harvested proteins, you know, do the things that will keep you connected to the earth and keep you connected to other people. And I think that it really, it opens up and cleans up your perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I understand when people say it's better than the alternative, but then you're also feeling, you know, overwhelming your liver with toxins and chemicals and pesticides and
Yeah.
glyphosate
Yep.
and, you know, vegetable oils. You've listened to
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Kate Shanahan's information. It's like, okay, that's more worry should be about the vegetable oils and refined sugar and
Yeah.
gluten. So that was just a thought to ask you about that. And then your gut health, have you, you know, done any lab testing for yourself and looked at how you improved?
This is
Good hot topic.
yeah, this is the one I've been waiting for.
The final one. Good.
Yeah. So so it's interesting, you know, it's interesting with the microbiome. I mean, because I've hacked my microbiome, you know, I've introduced a lot of diversity to it, and I've had some good reactions and I've had some bad reactions. But I think that the one thing that, I mean, you know, when they start finding the remains of humans, you know, 10, 20,000 years ago, or even sooner than that, like even like 3,000 years ago, and they're, you know, they're able to recover like some of the, you know, some of the microbiome, samples of the microbiome. Like, I was watching this thing on Netflix the other day. They dug up a piece of poop from a human being that was, I think it was like 10,000 years old. And they brought it into the lab, and they analyzed, you know, the diversity of that microbiome that they found in that poop. And it was huge. Like, it was massively more diverse than, you know, than what we have today, because their range of foods were different. You know, I mean, they might eat grasses, berries, they might eat animals that we're not eating. They would eat things, you know, like parts of the animals that we normally wouldn't eat, and animals that we just don't eat. So, you know, they're and to be able to protect them from disease as well. I mean, now we have antibiotics, right, that are supposed to keep us healthy and prevent disease, if you will. But what it does is it just kills off that village that you have. And
For
so,
2 years. Have you read that? It's 2+ years to repopulate your gut. So I read a good analogy. If you went into a tropical forest and threw a grenade into it and blew it all up. For that forest to grow back, it'd be 2 years. And I saw the other day 4 years to get the same microbiome.
Isn't that crazy?
One round of antibiotics.
Yeah. So I 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, I was at a trade show when they allowed trade shows, and I picked up an antibiotic resistant version of Klebsiella. So, which is basically sort of a precursor to pneumonia. And I had picked it up from somebody, and I was sick. Like, I was really, really sick. And I didn't want to do, I just didn't want to do antibiotics, because I felt like I had my microbiome really dialed in. Like, I supplemented it. I was using a lot of inulin and just keeping it super healthy. And it just broke my heart. It's like, yeah, we're going to go in and we're going to decimate your village.
Yeah.
And the doctors is like, yeah, well, you have a choice, because I had a small cut on my arm, and it just started to run up my arm, like this red streak. And he's like, your immune system is completely overwhelmed by whatever you've got. So he's like, yeah, he gave me Cipro, which is like super strong antibiotic. And so before, you know, he's like, here's the Cipro. And it's like, wait, I'm going to use the bathroom first. And I literally took a sample and put it in a bag and sent it off for testing. So I did a before and an after of my microbiome after a 3-week drill of Cipro. And it was crazy. Like, Klebsiella gone, all the, gram-positive pathogens pretty much gone, but also the diversity of my entire microbiome it was decimated. And I'm still struggling with it. I mean, I still supplement and I'm still struggling to get it back to where I feel it's solid, and it's just food choices. But I don't know.
What lab test did you use? Or how do you monitor if you're getting it back?
I can't remember the one that I used. I used it through one of my physicians. I also did something Biome online. It was an online one that ended up getting indicted on some kind of Viome. It was Viome.
Yeah.
And they got in a bunch of trouble and stuff like that. But there was one, Geneva, I think it was Geneva, that is the one that I've been using now. And I haven't done a test in a while. I'll probably prepare myself in the next couple of weeks for one. But
I will send you a link if you're interested. It's Microbiome Labs, Karan. Do you ever follow them?
Are they out of San Diego?
They're out of Florida.
Okay.
But Karan's in Chicago. We've done a little podcasting. He's out there at he speaks all over the world usually.
Yeah.
And he's a microbiome expert. They have Megaspore Biotic, the spore-based probiotic. But anyways, he came out with Biome FX.
Yeah.
And then they just updated their reports, like a 40-page report you get. But I had mine done in March, and I reviewed my results with him in a podcast, and then I'm going to do the test again. But it was pretty fascinating because mine wasn't too good. So I keep telling everyone, I eat healthy and I don't eat too many carbs, and I, I've been trying to do carnivore-ish, my own style, and just trying to, I know I need more protein, but I think carnivore is boring. And I just can't, it's not sustainable, even though I know I can tell my body likes it better. But anyways, my microbiome results were so low of diversity and the keystone bacteria. So that's my tip. I was trying to tell people, it's like, you don't really know what's going on unless you test, and you can keep doing with nutrition, but I have to add supplementation. Maybe it's because, I have history. I had blastohominus and H. pylori, and now I just found out I have mold toxicity and all this stuff you don't really reveal. And so maybe you don't want to know, but maybe you want to know, it's like, why am I not at 100%? Or maybe you don't know you're at 50%. You think that's your normal, and you don't realize I could be thriving so much more every day if I just knew here's some internal chronic stressors that are contributing to microbiome poor diversity and chronic inflammation in your body. And then figure out, how to eat a certain way, maybe be more strict, or add a little bit more supplementation of probiotics and some olive or oregano and garlic and all this stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, those help. Those definitely help control E. coli. Have you looked at supplementing with chicory root annullin?
Yeah, I've done it all.
And did it seem to help at all?
8 years and stuff. I think that's in my protocol now. I'm following.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's just interesting for people to get the lab testing along with the nutrition that you're following. Doing keto is usually what people need to do, but also identifying food sensitivities, because those healthy foods, I had someone, they're usually foods you eat all the time because you have leaky gut. So those foods have leaked out of your cured empire, that now they're out in the foreign land, and now they're, they're enemies out there. So they're tagged. So it's so fascinating to me doing all this investigation work with clients.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I love it. It is a hobby, but sometimes if you do get, this is what I have found, my experience, because my mom always suffered from leaky gut. And when she first told me I have leaky gut, this was before I was down this journey, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Does that mean it's leaking out of you or whatever? And then that's when I started making a deep dive, and it's like, oh wow, so leaky gut is where the mucosa lining of your gut has been eaten away, because you don't have enough proper food for the bacteria that lives there, or the bacteria that lives there will feed on that mucosa. So building that mucosa up, what I've found and read and works for me is pretty important, and I supplemented with bentonite. which was hard to get down. But
bentonite clay, do you mix it with water or did you take a capsule?
no, I mixed it with water because everything we get here is in bulk. So if I order, and I've
back in the day, it got in bulk. Now it's not in bulk; it's prepackaged.
prepackaged would probably be easier to choke down, but it's you put it in a glass of water and basically you get mud, and so you drink a glass of mud, and I found that really helped me quite a bit, and probably start that up again.
It's good. I'm doing Quicksilver's, their mold detox program, but it's they're doing their liver sauce. They have a Quicksilver protocol of catch and push, that you catch it with their liver sauce.
Yeah.
And you take glutathione, some other supplements, and then 30 minutes later, you take the toxic binder that's bentonite clay and activated charcoal and some other stuff in it. And you just drink that. And I do it every morning during the week. It's pretty nice. But then I take, IgG and so some Restore Flora, Sac Bluard, and I've got the prebiotics and, my drink mix and got it all. Wow. So it is a commitment to actually get healthy, but that's kind of what I feel like everyone should be learning right now, talking about nutrition as we are today, but other ways you can get healthy, because where's your immune system primarily? In your gut.
It is
80%.
75.
70 to 80. I keep hearing different things, but I mean, don't you find the importance right now to really teach people, get healthy? No one's healthy. It's like 100. Stay home and be healthy. I'm on a mission to get people healthy.
Good. And I support that 100% because, your gut is also responsible for the majority of your serotonin. Yeah. So like when we're going through this crazy stuff that we're going through, it's super important to be able to keep calm and keep yourself, from freaking out. And, making sure that you have plenty of serotonin going into your system is critical. And like when we're all locked in, right, and it's easy to just go to the grocery store and have packaged foods, because like I follow the packaged food market. But that's what I do on a daily basis to see which things are moving and which aren't. And while our economy was eating crap on us, the packaged food industry was going through the roof. Yeah. And it's like, what? It's like, go buy some fresh stuff, but then people were kept out of the grocery stores. And I know here we had to be in a line for a grocery store. One person could go in, it had to be distanced. It's still sort of that way. It's not as bad, but it really, it maybe is awful as this situation has been. Maybe it's taught us something. Maybe it's taught us like, let's eat better.
I say that all the time. Everything happens for a reason. And I say that there is a lesson to be learned. It's like wake up call.
Yeah, 100%.
This is happening and we're not getting out of it because 70% of the people are obese. Yeah. And if obesity is one of the main issues of hard reaction to COVID and low vitamin D and insulin resistance, hello. What are you going to do about it? Don't get me started. It's
the next pandemic. This pandemic just took over the diabetes pandemic. And once we're past this, all of the people that have gained quite a bit of weight over this period of sheltering in place and stuff, they're going to have to work it off. And that's where they're going to come to you.
I know. Well, that's my thing. Like, why don't I have a waiting list right now? I've sent all this to my clients. I'll do a 30-day. I'll do my 5-day jumpstart group programs. I was advertising Quicksilver's quarantine recovery program. Yeah. No one wanted to do it. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Invest in your health. Do something about it. Take ownership and get yourself in gear. Because I haven't had one GI map test result back from clients. I've had 5 this past 2 weeks that were all low to extremely low secretory IgA, which is marker for your immune system in your gut. And those are people that thought they're pretty healthy and they're not obese. So it's just, come on, America.
I know. Get it together. We've got 2021 though.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your kind of game plan? What your direction is going next? You've written this book over the years and you've got all these new products. It's kind of, tell us where you're going with Guy Gone Keto and Icon products and what your mission is.
Well, for Icon Foods, the thing that we're going to be leaning into a lot more in 2021 is inclusions. And so I'm sure, your audience might be like, inclusions, what's inclusions? So if you ever have keto ice cream or low carb ice cream, sugar-free ice cream, or bars or cookies, it's the chocolate chips. So it's the chocolate chips, it's the mini marshmallows, you know, called Marbits. It's sprinkles. It's these things that are added to, you know, they're added to frozen desserts, cookies, and bars to give them texture. And so a lot of those, that's, you know, like when you look at a lot of ice cream that's out there, you know, keto-friendly ice cream, when you look at the added sugars, most of those added sugars are coming from the inclusions. So I have been busy at work creating inclusions. All of them have less than 5 total ingredients. They all fall into the keto macro, and I think they're pretty delicious. So on the icon food side, that is where we are focused. I have so many new products in the queue for Guy Gone Keto that I'm super excited. I've got one that's like, I would say that's keto-ish, but you know that there's people out there that do keto that still drink alcohol, right? And if you have a mixed drink, it's the ones that you have that have a bunch of sugar in it that are going to derail you.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, alcohol's bad for you, okay? It just is. It's going to take you out of keto. It's bad for you, okay?
My vodka soda with muddled mint is bad for me. Just kidding.
It's
Yes.
ethanol. It's metabolized by your liver. But the thing is like, you know what? You have to have some fun.
Yeah.
And so I made a line of keto-friendly cocktail mixes. So, yep, Cosmopolitan, Margarita, Mangarita, I think they're calling it. I made a pina colada.
Mojito?
I made a mojito, but the mojito needs a little bit of work. It's that mint that's kind of throwing me off. So I have those. Oh, an appletini, and what was the other one? Lemon drop, Cosmopolitan. I think I already mentioned that. The by far though the pina colada is my favorite because it was so easy to make keto. It's like let's load this up with a bunch of coconut fat, and so it's pretty good. So I have those. As far as the condiment line, I've got a spicy garlic ketchup that comes out next month that I'm sickeningly addicted to. Like it's just that good. And then we have a barbecue sauce, a spicy barbecue sauce that's coming out that's really spicy. Like it's no joke. But so like I'm the CEO of the company here. But I really love getting in the lab. So if there's something that pops into my head, it's like, oh yeah, I should do that. And this is really going to sound weird, but I have this product that I developed that's called Keto Mouth Killer.
For bad breath.
Yep.
Keto
Mouth Killer. And it's 100% natural, has activated charcoal in it, but it also has like a variety of different types of salts. So you know how we're always fighting for electrolytes and stuff like that. It's got a little bit of salt that helps build, you know, a healthy mouth and maintain like a healthy microbiome in your mouth. And that one, I should probably have my first lab runs on that in the next couple of weeks. This one's gonna be fun. It's gonna be like like old style, like old school tooth powder.
You put some peppermint oil in it, right?
Yep, I have peppermint, clove, and cinnamon in it, and then I'm adding a tiny bit of tea tree oil. Ooh. So, yeah,
really good.
And
idea.
if you want lab samples, like you're like, hey, get me on your list. I'm always looking for people to send stuff to, because particularly people that are honest, because
I'm very honest. People probably don't like me because I'm like, I'll just tell you how I feel.
No, I crave that, because a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, this is the most delicious thing I've ever had. And I'm like, great. Tell me what's wrong with it though.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm like, there's something wrong with it. Tell me what's wrong. So yeah, if you, even, you know, people in your audience, if they're like, hey, I want some of that, I'm always looking for tasters, but you have to tell me what's wrong, not right.
Good feedback.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm ultra sensitive to a lot of things, so I'm always good because I get a headache in 5 seconds from a lot of different products. So I might not be good candidate. I am very like ultra. I don't know which part of like different erythritol, different sugars. I think, but I'm
Have you used allulose at all?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. because
Yeah.
it'll actually sort of suppresses your ability to metabolize carbohydrates. It actually will lower your blood sugar some. And the beauty is it'll raise your ketones slightly. So it's a super interesting, naturally occurring rare sugar.
Yeah.
And that's the one. Did we not
Like-
send you some?
I have it up. We just moved, and I
Oh,
was in
yeah, right.
Airbnb when I got the box, and our kitchen's being remodeled, I was telling you, and we've been living out of the laundry room for our kitchen. So
Oh.
it's not, everything's in there. We took the barbecue sauce out though, because
Okay.
we got barbecue the other day and tried that. It was
Okay.
really good.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we're changing all the packaging. So October
Nice.
15th,
All
stay
right.
tuned. We're going to have all of our packaging out. So yeah, anything like, yeah, I think you're going to find, the allulose to be super interesting, and also the way it affects the microbiome too.
Mm-hmm.
So your microbiome is actually able to metabolize it in a very interesting way. So if you start
Wow.
using it, yeah, I mean, I know the guy who makes it. So just as much as you need, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll try that out. So what is your website? Where should we send everyone to learn more about the Guy Gone Keto and Icon Foods if they're interested in purchasing some of those or signing up for food demo?
Sure. Guy Gone Keto. So if you go to guygoneketo.com, you can follow us on any of the socials at Guy Gone Keto. And DM us. We're always looking for people, like influencers and people that want to try our products, and we love collaborating. If there's situations, where somebody needs to, is financially strapped, but like has a kid who's suffering from, seizures and stuff like that, we donate a ton of product. So, this is a cause for me. So the main job is like Icon Foods.
Yeah.
This side hustle is my cause. So you can hit us up at Guy Gone Keto, any of the socials, or just go to iconfoods.com. And you can see what we're up to there.
Remind me to email you about your friends that you kind of got inspired by just the PKU, because I have a client, he's a high school, college now, but one of his best friends has PKU, and I never heard of that before. And I was like, there must be a solution to help him. So I'll ask you at a different time.
Stay off aspartame. Stay away from aspartame.
I was going to call him, and he's in college now, but I was going to call him or email him with that info. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. So thanks for chatting, and hopefully we got everyone enough information. I know there's so many little rabbit holes to talk to you about.
Tons of them.
We'll have to chat more, and I'll get more information about your company, because my husband's food industry too, so it'd be good to see if we can collaborate.
I'd love it.
So we'll touch base. All right.
Do that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.